There was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was not a king, not a prophet known for public miracles, not a warrior remembered for battles. He was, by all appearances, an ordinary man. Yet the scriptures describe him with words that are anything but ordinary. Job was blameless, upright, deeply reverent toward God, and careful to turn away from evil. This description is not accidental. It tells us that Job's faith was not superficial. It was not performative. It was not built for public recognition. His integrity existed even when no one was watching. And this immediately raises a question for anyone listening to this story. If your faith were examined in silence, without rewards or recognition, what would it reveal about you? Job's life was stable, prosperous, and full. He owned large herds of livestock, many servants, and vast land. He was considered the greatest man among all the people of the East. But more important than his wealth was his spiritual concern for his family. His sons and daughters would gather often to celebrate together, and after each gathering, Job would rise early in the morning to offer sacrifices on their behalf. Why would he do that? Because Job understood something many people overlooked. He knew that outward harmony does not always reflect inward purity. He thought to himself that perhaps his children had sinned in their hearts, even unknowingly. And so he interceded for them regularly. This was not fear-driven religion. This was responsibility born from reverence. But the story of Job is not about prosperity. It is about what happens when prosperity disappears. Unseen by Job, beyond the physical world he knew, a conversation took place in the heavens. Satan presented himself before God, and God spoke first. He pointed to Job, not as a test subject, but as an example. God declared that there was no one like Job on the earth, a man of integrity and genuine faith. Satan did not deny Job's righteousness. Instead, he questioned the reason behind it. He suggested that Job's faith was transactional. According to him, Job only loved God because his life was comfortable, protected, and blessed. Remove the blessings, Satan argued, and Job would surely turn against God. Pause here for a moment. If everything that currently gives you security were taken away, would your faith remain the same? God allowed Job to be tested, but with clear boundaries. Satan could touch Job's possessions, his stability, his comfort, but not his life. Job knew nothing of this exchange. He did not know that his faith had become the subject of a cosmic question. He would only experience the consequences, and then everything collapsed. In a single day, messengers began arriving, one after another. Each carried devastating news. His livestock was stolen. His servants were killed. Before one messenger finished speaking, another arrived. Disaster followed disaster, without pause, without mercy, without explanation. And then came the final message. All of Job's children were gone. A strong wind had struck the house where they were gathered, and it collapsed upon them. None survived. Imagine standing there hearing this. No warning, no gradual loss, no time to process. Just silence after words that can never be taken back. What would you feel first? Anger, shock, emptiness, or disbelief? Job stood up. He tore his robe. He shaved his head. He fell to the ground. And he worshipped. This moment has puzzled readers for centuries. Job did not deny his pain. He did not pretend to be strong. But he spoke words that echo through history. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Was this resignation, or was it faith that had gone beyond logic? Job did not curse God. He did not accuse him, but the test was not over. Once again, Satan appeared before God, and once again he accused Job. This time he claimed that a person might endure loss, but not physical suffering. Touch his body, Satan said, and his faith would collapse. God allowed it, but once more set a limit. Job's life must be spared. Soon, Job was covered in painful sores from head to toe. His suffering was constant. He could not sleep. He could not rest. The respected man now sat among ashes, scraping his wounds with broken pottery. His body reflected his inner state, confused, overwhelmed. And then came the voice closest to him, his wife. She had also lost everything: her children, her future, her security. Speaking from unbearable grief, she said words that have been debated for generations. Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die before judging her. Consider this. Do these words come from rebellion or from despair too deep for reason? Job did not lash out. He did not insult her. He responded that one cannot accept good from God and reject adversity. Yet this did not mean Job was emotionally strong. It meant his faith was being stretched beyond anything he had known. And then something even harder began. God remained silent. Job prayed, but no answer came. He waited, but nothing changed. And this leads to a question that still resonates today. What do you do when you remain faithful? When you do what is right and heaven seems quiet? Job sat in ashes, his outer life destroyed, his inner world unraveling, and what followed would not be immediate relief, but something far more challenging: human judgment, misguided explanations, and words that would deepen his wounds rather than heal them. Because sometimes the greatest pain does not come from loss itself, but from how others explain your suffering. After many days sitting in silence, covered in pain, confusion, and unanswered questions, Job was no longer alone. News of his suffering had spread, and 3 of his friends decided to come and see him. They did not come out of curiosity. They came, at least in intention, to comfort him, to mourn with him, and to understand what had happened to a man they once admired. When they saw Job from a distance, they barely recognized him. The strong, respected, prosperous man they knew seemed to be gone. In his place sat someone broken, physically and emotionally, surrounded by ashes. The sight was so shocking that they lifted their voices and wept. They tore their robes, threw dust into the air, and sat down beside him on the ground. For 7 days and 7 nights, they said nothing. No advice, no explanations, no theology, just silence. And in that silence, there was wisdom, because when pain is overwhelming, words often fail, but silence does not last forever, and when the silence finally broke, it opened the door to a different kind of suffering. Job was the first to speak. He did not begin with polite words. He did not try to sound strong or composed. His pain poured out honestly. He cursed the day of his birth, wishing he had never seen the light of day. Not because he hated God, but because life itself had become unbearable. His words were raw, emotional, and deeply human. Here is an important question to consider. Is faith only valid when it sounds calm, or can faith exist even when words are broken by pain? Job questioned why life is given to those who suffer so deeply. Why continue breathing when hope feels absent? Why remain alive when the future looks empty? These were not philosophical questions. They were cries from a soul that felt crushed under the weight of existence. His friends listened, and then one of them spoke. He began gently, with words that sounded spiritual and reasonable. He reminded Job that God does not reject the innocent. Slowly, subtly, he introduced an idea. If Job was suffering this much, perhaps there was something wrong in his life. Something hidden, something unconfessed. He did not accuse Job directly. He did not say, "You are guilty," but the implication was clear. And this raises a difficult question for anyone listening. How often do people explain suffering without truly understanding it? Another friend followed, reinforcing the same idea with stronger words. He spoke about justice, about how God rewards righteousness and punishes wrongdoing. According to his reasoning, the world operated on clear rules. Blessing followed obedience. Suffering followed sin. There was no room for mystery. But Job knew his own heart. He did not claim perfection, but he knew he was not living in secret rebellion. He refused to confess sins he had not committed. And so he defended himself. His words became stronger, sharper, more desperate. Not because he wanted to argue, but because he wanted truth. Job insisted that his suffering did not match his actions, and this contradiction tormented him. If God is just, why does the innocent suffer? If God sees all things, why does he remain silent now? Pause here and reflect. Have you ever done everything right, yet still faced loss you could not explain? The conversations grew more intense. The friends spoke with increasing confidence, while Job spoke with increasing pain. What began as comfort turned into accusation. What started as concern became judgment. They told Job that his suffering was actually less than he deserved, that God was being merciful, that if he truly repented, everything would be restored. Imagine hearing that while sitting in ashes, covered in sores, having buried your children, words can wound more deeply than silence. Job longed for a mediator, someone who could stand between him and God. someone who could understand human pain and divine justice at the same time. But he felt trapped, unable to reach God, yet unwilling to let go of him. And here lies a powerful truth. Job never stopped seeking God, even when he did not understand him. He questioned, he complained, he wept. But he did not walk away. His friends could not accept this. To them, questioning God was dangerous. Faith, in their view, meant silence and submission. But Job's faith was different. It was relational. It was honest. It was willing to wrestle. Another friend spoke, this time with anger. He accused Job of arrogance. He claimed that Job's words proved his guilt. He spoke as if he understood God completely, as if suffering could always be explained. But the more they spoke, the clearer it became. They were defending an idea of God, not listening to him. Job felt completely alone, not because no one was around him, but because no one understood him. His pain had been turned into a debate. His grief had become a lesson. And this brings us to another difficult question. When someone suffers, do we listen or do we explain? Job continued speaking. He expressed a fragile but powerful hope. He said that even if his body was destroyed, he believed he would one day see God. These words were not confident declarations. They were fragile threads of hope holding him together. Hope does not always sound strong. Sometimes it whispers. The arguments continued until voices grew tired. Explanations ran out. Accusations lost their force. And once again, silence filled the space. But this time, it was different. It was the silence before something greater speaks. Then, after all the human voices had exhausted themselves, after every argument had been repeated and every explanation had collapsed under the weight of pain, something changed in the atmosphere. The silence that followed was no longer empty. It felt heavy, expectant, as if creation itself was holding its breath. And then God spoke. Not softly, not gently, but with authority. The voice of God came out of a whirlwind, powerful and overwhelming, demanding attention. God did not appear in calm stillness, but in movement, strength, and sound, because sometimes divine truth does not arrive quietly when the human heart is shattered. God spoke directly to Job, but not in the way Job expected. He did not explain why the righteous suffer. He did not reveal the heavenly conversation that had taken place before everything collapsed. He did not justify the pain. Instead, God asked questions one after another, each one deeper than the last. He asked Job where he was when the foundations of the earth were laid, who determined its measurements, who stretched out the line upon it. He spoke of the morning stars singing together, of the boundaries placed upon the sea, of the moment when light first broke through darkness. And this forces a difficult question for anyone listening now. How would you react if God answered your deepest pain by reminding you how vast reality truly is? God continued speaking. He asked Job if he had ever commanded the morning or caused the dawn to know its place. He spoke of the depths of the oceans, of the gates of death, of the expanse of the heavens. He asked Job if he could bind the stars or guide the constellations in their seasons. Each question was not meant to humiliate Job, but to expand his understanding. God was not saying that Job was insignificant. He was revealing that the universe is far greater than human perception and yet still held under divine care. God then spoke about animals, wild and untamed creatures that live beyond human control. He described their instincts, their strength, their independence. He spoke of beings that survive without human intervention, sustained by a wisdom far greater than human planning. Slowly, something began to shift inside Job. For the first time since his suffering began, Job stopped defending himself. He stopped arguing, he stopped demanding explanations. Not because his pain had disappeared, but because his perspective had changed. Job began to understand that his suffering, as real and unbearable as it was, did not mean that God had lost control. And here lies a crucial truth. Understanding everything is not the same as trusting the one who understands everything. Job responded with humility. His words were few, honest, and sincere. He admitted that he had spoken of things too wonderful for him to fully grasp. He did not deny his pain, but he surrendered his need to control the narrative. He acknowledged that he had known God by hearing before, but now his understanding had deepened. Have you ever considered that suffering might not change what you believe, but how deeply you believe it? God was not finished speaking. He turned his attention to Job's friends, the men who had spoken with confidence and certainty. They believed they were defending God's justice, but God corrected them. He said they had not spoken rightly about him. This moment overturns a dangerous assumption. Speaking confidently about God does not mean speaking truthfully for God. God instructed them to bring sacrifices and told them that Job would pray for them. Here, one of the most powerful moments of the story unfolds. Job, still wounded, still marked by pain, prayed for the very people who had misunderstood and judged him. And while Job prayed for others, God restored his life. Not partially, not symbolically, but completely. His losses were restored twofold. His future reopened. New days replaced the ashes of the past. But the greatest restoration was not material. Job himself was transformed. He was no longer the same man. He was deeper, more aware, more grounded. His faith was no longer dependent on outcomes, but rooted in relationship. And this brings us to the heart of the story. The book of Job is not about why suffering exists. It is about who God is when suffering exists. Job never received the explanation he wanted, but he received something greater than explanation. He received encounter. Now, let me speak directly to you. What if the silence you are experiencing is not rejection, but preparation? What if the questions you carry are not signs of weak faith, but invitations to deeper trust? What if God is not absent, but working beyond what you can see right now? The story of Job confronts us with an uncomfortable truth. Faith is not proven when life is easy, but when life is unfair. Maybe you feel like Job at this moment. confused, exhausted, questioning, still believing, but struggling? If so, this story is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to remind you that God can handle your honesty. You do not need perfect words. You do not need silent suffering. You need sincere faith. If this story spoke to you, if it made you reflect differently about pain, faith, or God, support this channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who may be walking through a season of silence. In the channel link, you will find more complete stories like this, stories that challenge shallow faith and invite deeper reflection. Thank you for staying until the end, for listening, and for being part of this journey. The story of Job ends in restoration, but its message continues in every life that chooses faith even without answers.